how should I be talking to my brothers and sisters or about my brothers and sisters on the internet? Is there a way to stop the fighting? This is Wretched Radio. Don't know if you've noticed, but on the internet machine, a whole lot of squabbling going on, and the cancel culture is alive and well, not just in the pagan world, but also in Christianity, where we use social media to express our sentiments on a subject. Most likely, we don't have a ton of details on any particular story, but nevertheless, we wade in, and it is increasingly acrimonious. And it is my prediction it's not going to get better. In fact, the fracturing that we see in the evangelical community, it's going to fracture even more. Why? Consider Christian cancel culture. We will leave a post, we'll leave a comment, or we'll share a video that somebody produces that shows somebody is in error in their opinion, and around it goes, and the next thing you know, there's lines drawn, and there's a whole lot of squabbling happening. And I would suggest to you it's only going to get worse because we are actually canceling one another. Who is going to want to enter the arena of ideas when they know that they are going to be doxxed? Who is going to want to join the conversation that we're all supposed to be having about various and sundry issues when they know that all they're going to do is get pistol whipped from this quarter, that section, this side, that side? It is a dangerous place for somebody who wants to exercise some thoughtful considerations on a subject. So who will enter the dialogue? Pick the issue, by the way. I'm not thinking of anyone in particular. There's a gazillion of them right now. Whether it's politics, whether it's the church's response to the COVID business, whether it's the issue of how we relate to government, whether it is CRT, whether it is gender issues, you name it. There is all kinds of squabbling going on, and when it gets loud, the only people who are going to enter the arena are the loud people. If the current conversation is a wee bit shrill, and I'm not saying it's everywhere, but it's in a lot of places, who's going to want to dive in and go, yes, I would like to speak on this subject? It will only be people who are more shrill. And that means the conversation that is taking place on the internet, I don't think is helping us much. Can there be some productive conversations? Certainly. Are there obviously good articles and videos? No question about that. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about Fight Fest. I'm talking about Rock'em Sock'em Robots Land. I'm talking about where we just fire, aim, ready. We don't take a whole lot of time and we just jump in, and then you get jumped on, and then you jump back, and we're all pretty much willing to be at one another's throat. What can we do to improve it? I would like to suggest to you the secret is found in a conversation that we do not have often enough, and that is the conversation about the importance of the local church. The fights that we see happening on the internet, most of them, if not all of them, would not exist if they were being taken care of in the context of the local church. Please note, I'm not suggesting we all unplug, don't be involved out there, not saying that. What I am saying is that the anonymity of social media, the not being really in fellowship with one another, is exactly what should be happening in the context of the local church. And when it does, there should be a whole lot less snarking going on. That is why it seems to me that we need to rethink our relationship on the internet. And if we don't connect it to the local church, I think that we're just going to continue to hear an increasingly shrill dialogue amongst Bible-believing Christians. What would that look like? Well, how's about When I'm thinking about posting something, writing something, I stop and I ask, what if I were going to church with this person? What if I had to see this guy on Sunday? What if we took care of the nursery together? Yeah. Would I really say that? I would suggest to you, no. And there is ample evidence that this is not happening. We're seeing Christians canceled for saying something that normally in the context of the local church would be hey, brother, can I talk to you about this subject? I think I might have some information that could help you out so that you could say that a little bit better in the future. That doesn't happen on the internet. Pew, 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 pew. The local church, at least the local church mindset, I think could help us all just curb our sharp pens, which is actually a keyboard or your thumbs on a cell phone. But the point is, we need some help, and we need something to help us think through, how should I be talking to my brothers and sisters or about my brothers and sisters on the internet? Might I suggest remembering the local church and a number of other things might just help a lot. And so I offer for your consideration, give or take about 10, okay, maybe it's 15. We'll see if we get through 5 suggestions to perhaps make our relationship on the internet a little bit more gentle, peaceable, less, I didn't say obliterate being pugnacious, but it shouldn't be the totality of our conversations. Being pugilistic should not be what defines us. And after all, the world does see it. They're fully aware of this. In fact, there was an article in the Federalist. Hold on, I've got it for you. It was an article in the Federalist where they were saying, what's up with the evangelical leaders? They were talking in particular about the people who have had scandals. And they cited, all the ones that you and I are aware of. So the focus on it was moral failures. How do we avoid this? So it says the crisis of leadership in American evangelicalism. And they offer a number of explanations for this, a bunch of reasons. They got warm at some point. This is from Christian Post. But they're aware that this is going on. The Federalist, though, also had an article that was describing, I think the lines that they had were like Russell Moore, Beth Moore versus Vody and Tom Askell, something like that. And the world sees it, is my point. I'm not saying whether those lines should be drawn or not. I'm just saying that the world picks up on this. And if they sense that we are a bunch of fighting folks, why would they want to join that? Why would they want to enter into a community that is so bellicose? For your consideration, some things that you might want to consider when we are taking a look at the internet, when we are entering into the public arena to discuss these issues. The first thing that I might suggest, this is for you, Pastor, you might want to consider having an inclusion to your faith statement regarding issues of CRT, racial issues, because we live in a climate that if you don't say everything exactly right, you're going to be doxxed. You're going to be mocked. You will be called names. You might do well to prepare it, think it through. Okay, what is our theology of ethnic groups? What is our relationship with one another? How do we view issues of oppression and abuse? How do we view reconciliation? How do we view forgiveness? How do we view the reason that we even have ethnic identities? You put it on your website, and that way, when somebody goes, hey, what do you think about that? You can go, hey, just go to our website. You can read all about it, and you might stay out of trouble. Because if you biff it in the slightest regard, look out. The Ginsu knives of the internet come out, and they flail. I might also suggest this could be very helpful when it comes to us not being quite as constantly at each other. I think semantic range is killing us. Defining of terms. This is an issue. I see it constantly that demands that in going forward, if you want to stay out of the fray and you want to actually have a dialogue with a brother or sister that you could be going to a local church with when you talk about them, or to them on the internet, even though you're thousands of miles away, ask, what do you mean by that? What does that word mean to you? When you say this, tell me what it means. Because if we don't have the definition of terms, oofda, when we see it all the time, don't we? It doesn't matter what the category or the issue is, because there is always a semantic range to a word. It can mean this. It kind of could shade that way, or it depends on it could really be that. Okay, which one are you talking about? So maybe, just maybe, a helpful tip to help us not be so acrimonious on the internet would be, remember the local church. We're talking to brothers and sisters here. You might want to prepare something for your faith statement to keep you out of hot water, and define your terms. We'll continue, hopefully, offering some helpful suggestions on internet behavior next on Wretched Radio. Good morning, heathens. I'm your teacher, Mr.